Here we are, the All 32 pod. Once again, Mike Giardi alongside Will Parkinson. Big show planned for you as we get ready for the AFC and the NFC title games. We're going to go through the coaching search as well. A reminder, this show brought to you by PrizePicks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of the CLNS Media Network, and Gametime, best tickets, best prices to get you in to see any event you want to see. Let's jump into the coaching. Let's jump into what happened in your back.
News as
what do we got? What do we got?
Texans have fired team president Greg Grissom.
Oh.
Grissom, sorry. That was out of nowhere.
Bit of a surprise.
Not anything that cool, but team president being fired out of nowhere in the middle of the offseason is not normal.
Particularly when the organization seems like it's finally pointed in the right direction.
And they're like, hey.
You know what we should do?
Is he going to – oh, that's true. I'm not making it. Never mind.
The Texans will Texans still, even with the
contract extension maybe a lawsuit coming. No.
Yeah, you never know with them. Let's get into the head coaching. Let's get into Aaron Glenn, officially the hire for the Jets.
Yep.
We talked about it. We've talked about it quite a bit for the last, I don't even know how long, months really, but zeroed in on him, got him. Just the overall vibe you're picking up from the Jets offices right now. Yeah,
look, this has been the guy this dates back 3 years ago it dates back 20 years ago, but 3 years ago at the Senior Bowl, the Lions were coaching and Jets were also coaching there. And Glenn, who had a relationship with a couple of the Jets guys that, some of the Jets beat writers, Rich Cimini in particular, Rich covered Aaron Glenn's first practice with the Jets for Newsday back in 94, who had the locker next to Ronnie Lott. Carroll was the head coach. The Jets traded up ahead of the Saints in that draft, one pick to grab Aaron Glenn. Everyone thought they'd go receiver. They draft Aaron Glenn, this 5'9" corner at Texas A&M. It was pretty cool, that clip. If you like retro, watching some of those draft clips from the 90s and 80s, it actually was really cool. Boomer looks great. Kuiper's hair's going and the whole thing, but loved it in New York. And he told, Rich at the time the Jets were his dream head coaching job. And this is Aaron interviewed in 2021. He had been a coordinator. I mean, he'd been a D-backs coach for 1 year. It's not,
right.
Got some preliminaries on him. He had scouted for the Jets in-house and and on the road. So this is not a surprise. He's a Texas guy. He talked about it. That's why he ended up retiring in Houston, and he followed Bill in Dallas and stuff. But he's been a Jet forever. First as game to start as a player, he made multiple Pro Bowls. People don't remember 96. The Jets had the first pick back-to-back years, but 96. They were awful. They went 1-15. They were the worst team I've ever seen. And Keyshawn's a rookie. They have Aaron Glenn. They start to bud talent. Bill Parcells comes in and changed Aaron Glenn's life. Became a Pro Bowl level corner. With multiple Pro Bowls, obviously, and an All-Pro. The Jets, 12 months later, were in the AFC title game and up 10-0 against the Dynasty Broncos on the road, and had every reason to be going to the Super Bowl. Had Curtis Smart not fumbled, and we can do that whole diatribe of what happened in the 90s. But Aaron watched and helped turn this organization around, and it's probably its low point, or one of its lowest points in 97, 96 going into 97, 98. Was then a scout under Rex Ryan and Mike Tannenbaum. Mike Tannenbaum, who was running the interview process. There's a picture I tweeted out of Rex, Woody Johnson, and Aaron Glenn in his first year scouting. He's worked his way up. He's been a scout. He's played in the league for 15 years. He's been a coach at every level. And one thing I'll say about Aaron Glenn, and this is the reason I think Mike Vrabel and Aaron Glenn, Mike Vrabel was not a good defensive coordinator. He's a really damn good head coach. He was an awesome player. He was an awesome position coach. He had the year in Houston, Mike, and I don't remember Mike Vrabel. We weren't like, wow, great DC. We were like, Mike Vrabel probably is a great leader of men. He will hire a really strong staff, and he'll figure it out. That's what the hope is with Aaron Glenn. He's going to have that Vrabel, Pete Carroll level role where he's going to run everything. It's going to be his franchise. He's the face. The face now, the Patriots, is Mike Vrabel and Drake Maye. The Jets will be their future quarterback, whoever may be, and Aaron Glenn. It's not about Woody and whoever they hired GM. Darren Moogie looks like the favorite at the moment. Might could get hired before this episode comes out. Mm-hmm. But it'll be about Aaron Glenn. They want him to, bring a couple scouts, a couple nerds with him, and he'll do his thing. Good defensive coordinator, better coach. A couple of things that I just want to highlight here, and I'll turn over to you on your thoughts. But couple quotes I got. Very, very big in analytics. I talked about that the other day. Aaron Glenn he was on the Pivot podcast with Ryan Clark and Fred Taylor, who he played with in Jacksonville and the whole thing. One thing stood out to me, and this has been, you ask any Lions player, any Saints player, Chris Banjo is probably going to be their special teams coordinator who played for him in New Orleans. Sean Payton, Dan Campbell, Bill Parcells, all very successful. That's his tree. Got a lot of Parcells in Aaron Glenn. It's a lot of and Bill Belichick. The 98 Jets staff with Glenn is based on all of the way he talks about it. He said he models himself after Belichick, but we're talking 90s Belichick, not 2019 Belichick, who was just kind of an asshole. We're talking the guy that was the most bright defensive mind in the world, Parcells and Payton. He said that anybody that doesn't follow his standards is a traitor and could go play anywhere else. You're going to follow my standard. We're going to play violent football, and we want to bring violent football back to the NFL. Again, good defensive coordinator. I think he's going to be a better head coach, and they got to get quarterback and offensive coordinator right. That's all. It's paramount. But on the face of it, I'm not sure the Jets and Jets fans could have asked for a better, we can take a deep breath. It's not about Aaron Rodgers anymore. It's about Aaron Glenn.
I love your point about sort of him embracing the qualities of that staff that he grew up under as a player, because Vrabel to me is the exact same thing. And Mike, in a lot of ways, when you hear Mike talk about what he wants in a football team and what he wants out of players and the opportunities that are going to present themselves, in other words, we let you try something. If you show us that you can handle it, we'll give you a little bit more, and then a little bit more. You earn the opportunities that you get. If you continue to get them and make something out of them, then we'll give you more. But the whole baseline of his belief system was what Belichick brought to the table when Vrabel was his player underneath him in New England. And obviously Belichick got that from,
you made a good point there.
Belichick got that from Parcells, right?
Yeah,
Vrabel just has more, Vrabel has more of the Parcells personality, but the baseline of what he is as a football coach comes off of that tree.
Yeah, these guys, I think Vrabel and Glenn very specifically, they played under Bill, and they played under Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, was Vrabel there when when Parcells was in New England? I don't remember. I don't know. No. He was brought in. He was in the 2001 before the 2001 season. He was part of that free agent class. Regardless, these guys played under these guys, so they're a Belichick tree or Parcells guy. Aaron Glenn's a Sean Payton guy. That's his coaching tree, who is a Parcells guy. So it's like Vrabel is a Bill O'Brien guy who is a Bill Belichick guy. So there's a little bit removed where you don't try to emulate and be this person you're not. And the one thing I think is the key here, I'll say this, and I'm going to be pretty harsh about Robert Saleh here, but Robert Saleh cared more about being liked than winning, in my opinion. That's the way his tenure felt with the Jets. I want to be liked by all these other coaches. I want to be liked by all these players. They want to be best friends and buddies. And I can't speak to Gerard Mayo. I wasn't in the locker room, but sometimes it feels like you don't need to be buddy-buddy with everybody. There's a good side to have that. Aaron Glenn's like, I'll watch tape with you, and I'll talk you through situations, girlfriend problems, all that stuff. I'll be there for you as a brother, father figure. But when it's time to go, it's time to go. And I want to win more than I want to be your buddy. So I don't think there'll be a problem with Aaron Glenn telling anybody in that organization, including Woody Johnson, including his kids, to shove it where the sun don't shine. If he doesn't like it, very similar to Mike Vrabel, it's the same thing. Like, hey, I appreciate it. You're my boss. I don't really want you to fire me, but I'm going to be who I'm going to be. And I'm not wavering. So take me or leave me. He said the one quote I liked, he asked him about the Rooney Rule. And obviously Aaron Glenn's a guy who people feel like, oh, is he affected by it? He said, if you don't think I'm the best candidate for the job, do not interview me. I have no interest in your job. I'm not a token. And I was like, this dude truly just believes in himself. And there's no fluff, man. He's like, I'm who I am. If you take it or leave it. And the Jets took it. And I think it's going to, we don't know if it's going to result in wins, but I think they're going to be a much more, the culture there for at least next year and the year after probably will be much different than the mopey, crappy Rodgers Saleh-led culture.
Yeah, they need to flush that out big time. It reminds me of what Vrabel said at his press conference. We got to remove entitlement. The Jets have to remove entitlement from that organization, and getting Rodgers out of the building is certainly a way to start. Nick Haley's
Johnson, by the way.
What's up?
Keyshawn Johnson, teammate of Aaron Glenn, about 10 minutes ago, said there is zero chance Aaron Glenn has interest in Aaron Rodgers on his team. I believe Rodgers is going to retire, and I don't think Keyshawn just says stuff to. I take it back. Keyshawn does say stuff to stay stuff, but I don't think that he would have, for a guy that he's teammates with and buddies with multiple different stops. I don't think he would just, like James Jones when he would say stuff about Rodgers, or Rodney Harrison and the McCourties would say stuff about the Patriots. It's not a guess. It feels like it's
at the very least, it's an educated opinion.
Strongly educated.
Nick Caley has in the last 24 hours emerged as the front runner for the offensive coordinator position. Of course, his background, he was with the Patriots for a number of years, was in the last year of his contract, appeared to be in line to be the offensive coordinator when Josh McDaniels took the gig with Las Vegas. And that is when Bill Belichick decided, no, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put Matt Patricia and Joe Judge in charge of the offense. Obviously, at the end of the year, Caley left, went to the West Coast, joined Sean McVay's staff. He was up for the OC position. In fact, he was the choice for Gerard Mayo and the Patriots staff last year, turned down the job. There was some talk that it was about money. I think there was just reservation in general with the entire setup there. And the Rams turned around, reworked his contract, gave him more duties, more responsibilities in LA. I think he is a bright guy. I think Tom Pelissero 5 years ago had him as an up-and-coming head coach. The one fear would be, obviously, he still hasn't called plays. So he will be a first-time play caller for a first-time head coach. And that's where, beyond that hire, which is critically important for Aaron Glenn, becomes the next layer to that is who helps Nick Caley become the offensive coordinator that you want to be. Obviously, having experience under McDaniels is great because Josh is really good offensive coordinator. Now having the experience of being under a different tree and a different style in McVay, a great play caller, also really important. But I'd still, if I was them, if I'm Aaron Glenn, I still want someone who's been around the game a lot longer than Nick has to just sort of be his right-hand guy. Just bounce things off of, hey, you might be overlooking this, or maybe you need to look that direction. And I feel like Aaron's got a good handle on, especially having come from Dan Campbell's staff and the way Dan built his staff, that I would feel like Aaron's got a good handle on, if I'm going to go this route, I need some experience there alongside.
You know the name that's likely to join the Jets staff? For blast from the past, Todd Haley is the guy. He coached Glenn. I'm telling you, I researched that Jets staff from 98 to 2000. His coaches, most of whom either joined him on the staff or who endorsed him to get this Jets job. Todd Haley, likely to join us in a senior advisory role, is obviously multi-time head coach, OC. He's a lunatic, and their practices are going to be as intense as it's going to get. Todd Haley does not mess around. Todd Haley was the receivers coach. The DB coach, assistant DB coach, Todd Bowles. The real defensive back coach and defensive coordinator, Bill Belichick. There was Charlie Weiss, and a lot of the Patriots guys obviously ended up that with the dynasty guys were on that Jet staff. And obviously Parcells, I would expect and then Mike Westhoff was also there, who's likely to resume kind of an advisory role. Right. And he'll bring over probably Chris. If you were asking me the staff right now, it'll likely be offensively some combination of these five names. Nick Caley, who you just mentioned, who I think is the favorite. McVay had a quote today. There hasn't been a request yet or anything official. I think he knows it's going to happen. And good for Nick and good for Sean. He gave him a promotion. He came over. He helped him a lot this year, and he'll now get his own opportunity, grow his own tree. Josh McCown's the rogue outsider. Glenn's apparently interested there. It seems like Josh wouldn't leave just to be an OC. He would only leave to be a head coach. Mark Brunell and JT Barrett on the Lions staff. Those are guys to watch for both the Bears opening and also the Jets opening, or do they get promoted to be to the Lions offensive coordinator role? Brunell, obviously similar to McCown, quarterback that saw everything, mentored a lot at the end, and has been a quarterback coach with the Lions for 4 years. The other two names, Clint Kubiak and Hank Fraley, the O-line coach, looking to get that promotion to be an OC. He may get the Seattle job, so we'll get a Seahawks shout out in this episode. And lastly, Clint Kubiak, who's done a really nice job. I know we talked a little bit about him. Mm-hmm. Clint's, could Gary Kubiak come and be the offensive advisor type of guy? So those are the names there. Defensively, it looks like Steve Wilkes is going to be the DC. Again, a guy with head coaching experience. And then lastly, Chris Banjo, former safety, Glenn coached for 4 years in New Orleans, has been the assistant special teams guy to Mike Westhoff out in Denver. It looks like Denver, there'll be a lot of the Jets staff will be the Lions, Saints, Broncos. Basically, did you in some way touch the 98 Jets? And if you did, you will be on the staff.
Well, and it just goes to show you, though, like having Aaron between being a player and then getting into coaching and doing and scouting and going through the different levels there, you build up relationships, something Gerard Mayo didn't have a year ago when the Patriots were trying to form their staff. So
you let guys work their path through the league.
Yeah, you hodgepodge of guys like, oh, we'll take this guy. And, oh, well, I know him from a second guy over there, the cousin, my brother's cousin's sister's friend. Like, he'll come on aboard. Obviously it didn't work. Let me read PrizePicks real quick for you, people, because we're getting down to the nitty-gritty. Big game almost here. It's now or never. Don't miss out on the last football game of the season with PrizePicks, the best place to win cash while watching the big game. PrizePicks also giving away a free pick for the big game where one of the starting quarterbacks will only need to throw to 1 yard to win. If you're correct on it and at least one more stat projection, you can win real cash. Speaking of which, they've already got that for the NFC Championship game. Jaden Daniels only needs 1 passing yard or more for you to win 1 square. Then you just add to it, and hopefully you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. Again, at least 2 players, up to 6. PrizePicks. Run your game all season long. Just download the app today. Use the code CLNS to get $50 off instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today. Use the code CLNS for $50 off instantly after you play your first $5 lineup, which you don't even have to win. PrizePicks, again, run your game.
Mike, we're going to Dallas quickly.
What do you got?
Dallas. Florio just put out an article, and again, take this for what you will. Brian Schottenheimer is deep in. He interviewed for 5 hours yesterday as a second round. He's been the OC there. He obviously interviewed yesterday or 2 days ago as well. There were some very respected Dallas beat reporters that said the deal is going to be done soon. There's other Dallas reporters. Jane Slater said they're not close. So again, competing stories. This tends to happen this time of year. The rumor is Rex Ryan, who was supposed to get the job, but due to money, apparently, according to Rex, did not take the job this year. Mike Zimmer ended up getting, would join Brian Schottenheimer as his DC in Dallas, which to me is objectively funny because Rex was time with the Jets. His offensive coordinator was Brian Schottenheimer. What do you make of this turmoil in Dallas?
Unserious franchise. That's the first thing that came to mind. And there are a bunch of them in the National Football League. But when you consider the brand that is the Dallas Cowboys, when you consider the financial resources that Jerry has, Jerry's World is unbelievable. It's the greatest stadium. Well, I haven't been to the LA one yet, so I can't say it's better than the LA one, but I've been to the Dallas one. I've been to the others. The Dallas Stadium is unbelievable. It's a gold mine. He has a franchise quarterback, depending on how you feel about Dak Prescott. He has CeeDee Lamb, one of the 3 best receivers in football. There is an inordinate amount of things that line up for that franchise to be good almost every year. And he's not approaching it that way. He didn't approach it that way with Jason Garrett, who was a puppet as his head coach for 9 years, I believe it was. And Brian Schottenheimer feels to me like this is the next version of Jason Garrett. I can control the coach. I'm the star. He's not the star. And this is how we go. If I was a player there, and I'm not saying Brian Schottenheimer's a hack. He's not. He's been in the league for a long time, right? He's a good football coach.
He's
I don't know if he's a good head.
Football royalty from a family perspective.
100%. And maybe he turns out to be a great head coach, but there's nothing in his past that would lead you to believe that that's what he's going to be. At best, this is like average, higher, doesn't push any, the needle one way or another. And again, if I'm a Cowboys player, I'm looking at my owner going,
dude, what do we do?
Are you serious? You fired Mike McCarthy, who has a resume and at least 1 Super Bowl on it, a Super Bowl win. You fired him to hire his offensive coordinator. That's what this search was all about. And it always felt like this was going to go in a weird direction. Kellen Moore seemingly felt like that was the way it was going to be. And we'll see, as you said, there's varying reports, but I think it's laughable. I do. I really do. And good for him if he gets the opportunity, truly.
I feel don't you feel like, I know it's a different situation, but it is a little, again, I know Mike McCarthy is not Bill Belichick or Bill Parcells, but part of me feels like it's like, oh, we're gonna fire Bill, and we just like can't wait to get this coordinator who like probably doesn't have the resume to be a head coach right now. It's different. Draw's younger, but like the Jets, Parcells walks away, they hire Billy, obviously leaves, and they're like, here's Al Groh. You're like, are you serious?
Yeah,
this is a good team. Like we were in the playoffs last year. Like what are we doing here? The problem for me is it's not even about Brian Schottenheimer, as you mentioned. It's look at the other names that are finalists: Robert Saleh, Anthony Weaver, oh my God, I just blanked that. Kellen Moore, Jason Witten. There was the Deion Sanders rumors, Leslie Frazier. Like, dude, those are the names. If I'm being entirely honest and like real about it, are the names that you look at and you go, the worst team in the NFL is probably the Houston Texans 3 years ago or 4 years ago when they were looking at David Culley and Lovie Smith. It's like retread here or retread there. I hope Brian Schottenheimer does an amazing job because he's worked an entire NFL life to get this opportunity. I hope he does. But the time for him to get a head coaching job was like 2011 when the Jets won the AFC title game back-to-back years as the OC. Mike, that was 14 years ago. The Jets haven't been in the playoffs since, and Brian Schottenheimer hasn't deserved the job since as an OC, as a head coach. So I don't know what they're doing.
Well, you know what's kind of funny? You said like you're trying to make comparisons. Well, let's make the comparison to the Jacksonville Jaguars, who fired Doug Peterson, as we all knew he was going to get fired. He gets fired. And after 2 weeks of a head coaching search in which their two top candidates were, why am I drawing a blank on his name? The coach of the Bears now.
Oh, Ben Johnson.
Ben Johnson. Thanks. I was like, where did that go? Ben Johnson and Liam Coen, the offensive coordinator for Tampa. Ben Johnson basically was like, you know what? No, thank you, because you're keeping Trent Baalke, the general manager, who has hired 5 different coaches, and 4 of them were terrible. Look at his past history. This goes back to San Francisco now.
Jim Tom Sula.
Right. 1 year. Chip Kelly, 1 year. Like literally just.
He had on one coach, and that was, again, like 15 years ago.
Harbaugh, right. So it takes them 2 weeks, and Liam Coen saying, you know what? I'm out. They think they're going to give him the job after Ben Johnson goes to Chicago. They zero in on Coen. Like who's going to say no to a head coaching job? We got to, whatever. We've got a $50 million quarterback who may or may not be good, but we have it. We have some pieces. We can create some cap space, whatever. We got a high draft pick. We've got all these things. And Cohen's like, no. And then they decide, you know what we should do that everybody told us we should have done before the season even ended is fire Trent Baalke. So they fired Trent Baalke, and I'm guessing we're taping this. It's Thursday, 4:12 in the afternoon. I'm guessing they're making one last overture to Liam Coen and being like, dude, get your GM, whoever you want, and we got you here, and we'll see. Maybe Liam Coen now is like, nope, you guys, again, unserious. You're an unserious organization, and I'll wait 1 more year and be like, maybe like Ben Johnson, where I was the hot guy last year, and I still remain the hot guy this year, and maybe there's a better job out there than the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, I suggested this, I think, when I don't know, maybe 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. It feels like the best path for him was either take one of these jobs now or wait 1 more year, get another year of experience. The Bucs job's probly yours if anything goes wrong this year, or if Todd decides, hey, man, I've been doing this, as we just talked about. He's a DB coach in his 40s in the 90s Jets. Like, this is quite a long time ago. Todd's been doing it a long time now. Maybe he says, hey, I'm kind of tapped. I don't know. Maybe he really does. Maybe he doesn't. I have no idea. He's a good coach.
Or maybe they say, hey, you've been good for us. We've won division titles, but you're not taking us to the next place. And maybe Liam becomes the coach in waiting.
Yeah, little Mike Martz, Dick Vermeil. Obviously, again, different situation. Just the hotshot offensive, guy that doesn't have any head coaching experience. This is so inept. Look, I understand if you try to sell me on, hey, listen, I know Trent hasn't done a great job, but he has drafted some good guys, and Trayvon Walker's actually good, and Trevor Lawrence is good, and Josh Hines Allen is good. Like, look what he's done, man. Like, we just haven't gotten the right coach. We made the playoffs 2 years ago. We won a playoff game, or 3 years ago, whatever. Like, we should have made the playoffs as a division winner last year. We had choked at the end. Like, Trevor gets hurt. All these things, like, whatever. You could, again, I wouldn't buy into it, but I could understand
You can twist it in that way.
you can
Absolutely.
twist it for sure. The same way we talked about a lot. Gerard could have done it with the Patriots or all these things. But once you kept him and you fired Doug P, it was over. So now figure out who you're going to get, even if it's Robert Saleh, who felt like the favorite as soon as Liam Coen pulled out. Now I don't know because Balky, did that ruin his shot? Who knows? He's interviewing, I believe, in person tomorrow as a second round. And
he's also apparently got an offer from San Francisco to be the highest paid defense coordinator in the league. So that's a pretty good fallback place. Hey, go rebuild for a year.
Dallas and Vegas still. I mean, it's crazy. This guy was whatever.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm struggling with, Mike, is so they're going to turn to Joe Brady and somebody else. Oh my God, I'm blanking out. That's still in the playoffs. Whether it's Matt Nagy or Joe Brady or Nagy, whoever it may be, or Cliff Kingsbury or somebody is going to just magically wait 2 more weeks, and maybe they do. Right? Dan Quinn was hired in February last year. That said, if you're a Jags fan, where's your optimism in saying they're going to get this right? Because now it's we just reacted to the fan and media outcry. That's not a good strategy. Whether I think Trent Baalke should have kept his job or not,
right?
It's a horrible strategy of a way to run your team. And now I'm going to overturn all. So you're not going to start the interview process over? I mean, what are we doing here? It's 2 weeks later.
They should have listened to all the coaches who told them your job's not nearly as attractive, and all the executives who told them your job's not nearly attractive if you keep Trent on board. You could have you could have maybe landed Ben Johnson. Maybe Ben Johnson looks at Trevor Lawrence and says, I can fix him. I see why he was the best quarterback prospect to come out since Andrew Luck. I see it and I can do it, but you screwed it all up. And you know what, in terms of a landing spot for your first job, Jacksonville, easy media market, that can be that division's not very good. You could go in there and all of a sudden year 1, boom, you win the division and you're a king, right? And you've built up this equity already. Instead, you've totally schlubbed the whole thing up, which is just absolutely remarkable. But yet, this is what the Jaguars do, and Shad Khan does, and his son. They're a mess. I wanted to mention one other thing just on a Patriots front. They officially announced Josh McDaniels as the OC, which we talked about when we did the emergency pod on Tuesday. And they also, as I kind of been leading you down this road, Terrell Williams named the defensive coordinator. He, of course, was the Lions run game coordinator, defensive line coach last year under Dan Campbell and Aaron Glenn. But prior to that, had spent 6 years as Vrabel's defensive line coach in Tennessee and eventually became the assistant head coach. And Mike actually let him coach a preseason game as sort of a thank you and respect for, and also to everyone else, this guy should be on your radar at some point. And he's never gotten that kind of buzz. But that's going to be an interesting marriage between he and Vrabel, because I think having Josh on board allows Vrabel to spend more time on defense and be more of the CEO type coach and let Josh coach the offense, as Bill used to do. Bill would turn his back on the defense on the offense at times because he knew that Josh had it handled, and Tom Brady did as well. This is a little different, obviously, with Drake May being in his second year, but you can have trust that this guy has done it for a very long time as an OC.
Yeah, it's nice. Their floor is raised a lot. That's all I really have to add there. I just think the Patriots have done a good job of. I talked about the other day.
Yep.
When we did the Vrabel reaction pod, a lot of the Patriots fans liked my comment about they feel like an 8-win team next year, and I actually say that as a big comp. I think that if they win 8 or 9 games. You go from what they went 3 this year, 3
and
to
have a friggin' parade here. That's how desperate they are.
We have our franchise guy, our franchise head coach, our lockdown corner, and we just more than 50% increased our win total. That's a successful season to me, and this staff to me screams I don't know about the ceiling. I have a couple questions there.
Sure.
Does Nick Caley's ceiling higher than Josh McDaniels? Absolutely, but is his floor a lot worse?
Right. He could be Mike LaFleur.
We don't know. So I like some of the moves they're making. Again, believe they brought in the Titans strength and conditioning guy. I saw that,
Tony Dews, the running backs coach
from the Jets, who did some nice work this year with,
and he was also with the Titans prior. So
As long as they keep Keith Carter away from that organization, you'll be fine.
I mean, that's the next big hire, quite frankly. Is like, they've had
call him
instability with that offensive line coach. And I'll give you just two more nuggets on the coordinators. One, Josh McDaniels is really excited about the prospect of coaching Drake Maye. And it's an interesting relationship because obviously, does Drake Maye want to be the best? We don't know that yet. He's pretty internally driven, but we don't know. Is he going to spend this offseason looking at the things he did wrong and working to fix them? Josh Allen, every summer, every offseason goes away and he works on something and comes back and it's better. It's fantastic. But like Brady used to do that. Like, this is what I couldn't do, or I didn't do it as well as I want, and he'd work on it. Does Drake do that? But Josh knows what that looks like because Josh did it with Tom, right? Like, he helped Tom as Tom helped him. And I'm just curious, he looks at Drake Maye and looks at this moldable clay and says, I think if this guy's got the internal drive, that I can get him to where he's a top 5 player at the position. And I think that's going to be fascinating to watch. And then on Williams, real quick, talking to a lot of people in Tennessee, absolutely love the guy. Jeffrey Simmons basically, gives him credit for helping develop him into one of the best interior defensive linemen in football, a guy who completely ruined the Patriots offense in their game this season. And then there's a quote from Brad Holmes, who actually, they overlapped at North Carolina A&T, which I mentioned in the last thing. Holmes said, he's a great teacher. He's a straight shooter. He's really the first coach that taught me the nuances of achieving what you want to achieve on the field behind the scenes. He's the one that used to bring me in and sit me down and watch tape with me all summer and learn the ins and outs and develop a relationship so that you can build that trust with the coach. And Vrabel talked about this in his opening press conference, about how he wants his guys to be great teachers and to be great leaders. And Terrell Williams fits that mold. As one guy who played for him told me, he's the kind of guy that will MF you to your face, but he also will tell you that he loves you and you believe it. So he knows the names of your kids, knows the names of your wife, like the whole thing. He's involved with his players off the field. But when it comes time to work, as you mentioned with the Aaron Glenn stuff, okay, it's time. Like, put that stuff here and let's go do what we're supposed to do.
Couple just notes here before you do your read, and we're going to do the games. Tony Baselli, Jaguars Hall of Famer, is going to be helping lead the search for their next coach.
What does he know about that?
He doesn't. This is getting worse the more they talk about it. John Spytek, obviously a Brady guy, announces the Raiders GM. It's probably almost a year late, but really nice hire. And Pete Carroll looks like the guy that, if I had to be a betting man right now, that's what I would take, which would be a nice coup for them. There was one other thing I wanted to mention there. Oh, Bill Belichick, Mike. Monday Night Football to start the year against TCU. Bill finally signed his contract when the NFL told him to go scratch. So, that we just covered a lot, but I mean, man, that is quite an entrance against TCU.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. Like I said, I'm really looking forward to what it looks like and see how he can motivate 18, 19, 20-year-olds and see, for someone who's likes to get exotic on you and likes to a lot of different points there. Like, how does he boil it down for 18 and 19-year-olds? You want to go to that North Carolina TCU game? Use Game Time.
Yeah,
Use Game Time, right? It's a no-brainer. Curated deals make it easier to find the best price on great seats. The super deals, the best value for that event. You can see the seat view before you buy the ticket, the actual view, so you're not behind a pole or something like that, or stuck in some remote corner of the field where you can't see a damn thing. On-time ticket delivery, lowest price is guaranteed. There's also event cancellation protection, job loss protection, like all kinds of good stuff. Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you the only incredible deals at great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets to find the best value. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create the account, redeem the code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Let's get to the football games. Let's start with Philly hosting Washington, NFC Championship game. My first question to you: can Jaden Daniels continue to do what Jaden Daniels has done, which is throw for nearly 600 yards in the 2 playoff games, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, rushed for, I believe, 86 yards in those 2 games total, and just has had an answer for whatever teams have thrown at him. And it's he played a lot of college football, and I think you're seeing that experience and the coolness under pressure shine through. But I think even this is beyond what you could have expected, even after a terrific rookie season, for him to play. Right now, he's the best. In terms of the 4 quarterbacks left in the playoffs, he's the one who's playing the best.
Yeah, a couple of different stats ESPN shared this morning that I thought were pretty relevant. I wanted to bring, to the show. QBR during Washington's last 7-game win streak. Dan Orlovsky tweeted this out. Make sure you give him credit. Jaden Daniels' QBR, Mike, is 98.5 out of 100, 71% completion, only taken 3 sacks. For other further reference, these teams played in Week 11. Daniels was clearly injured. They only blitzed 11% of the time, but when they blitzed, his QBR was 21. He was pretty bad, frankly.
Yes.
One of his
that was the game where he was a little bit beat up coming into that one.
Yeah, it just wasn't pretty. Week 16, they blitzed him 3 times his amount. Fangio's like, we're going to light him up 33%, 96 QBR when healthy. So, look, I think this is a house money game for Washington. I think they're going to make this really close. They're playing so well right now. And they do some of the things Philly's not great at. I don't know. He's going to press some of these, he can escape the pocket. I don't think you can blitz him the same. I don't think you can rush him the same. I think he'll make you pay. Dan Quinn over Sirianni is a big advantage for me. I'm sorry. Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. versus Kellen Moore is a mismatch. The Eagles' talent is going to win them this game. It's not going to be coaching. Cliff Kingsbury versus Fangio, actually a pretty fun matchup.
Mm-hmm.
Does Cliff try to get the ball out of Jaden's hands quickly? Can Terry McLaurin make 2 big catches? One, it's what he did last week. It's what he does every week. He's not a 10 for 104 and a touchdown. He's like 6 for 150 or 3 for 75 and a touchdown. They have got to be able to run the football. They have to get off the field on 3rd down. If I'm Washington and I'm Dan Quinn, I am making Jalen Hurts make not quick decisions. I am making him process. You need to get to your 2nd and 3rd reads, buddy, because we've seen even teams like the Panthers. We've seen it, across other games too. But that game stands out where it was like, no offense, the Panthers at that point in the season were playing better football. That said, they are very bad, and he looked awful. And I think he's 150 yards a game, Mike, or something like that in playoff wins. So make him make decisions and get the ball out of Jaden's hand quickly, and then you got to beat him over the top when you get the opportunity.
Yeah, 6 of his last 7 starts, he has thrown for less than 200 yards, Jalen Hurts. You were talking about how Fangio defends him. It's going to be fascinating. Fangio raved about him. He's like, the tape says it's not a rookie. I know what it says on this thing, but
the tape. 22 years old.
Yeah. Quinyon Mitchell is a big one here. Left the game with a collarbone injury against Los Angeles. They had a walkthrough on Wednesday. I have not seen the practice report for today. Again, we're taping this Thursday afternoon, 4:27 right now. He's an important piece. In Week 11, he locked up Terry McLaurin. They played a little bit more man. In the Week 16 matchup, McLaurin got him for a touchdown, but Mitchell's a very good player. He was by the way, Rookie of the Year for the Pro Football Writers. He did not win. Jared Verse won, but I just thought he had a terrific year. And again, doesn't have the counting stats. And I knew that Verse was probably going to win, but that's because people are lazy and they didn't look deeper into it. That's my shot on people, period. Sam Cosmi, here's another one. We talk about injuries. Sam Cosmi, who's Washington's best offensive lineman, tore up the knee. He's out for the rest of the postseason. So now Jalen Carter, Cosmi at least gave Carter, Carter's still the better player. Carter was the best defensive player on Philadelphia's team, one of the best defensive players in the league. But Cosmi did a decent job on him, or at least slowed him down some. Without him in the lineup, does Carter just straight up eat in this game? How does Vic Fangio move him around? He probably should. I'm sure there'll be doubles in this process, but Jalen Carter has the potential to be a game wrecker when the best offensive lineman for the other guys, who was lined up across from him quite a bit, is not going to be out there.
Yeah. Again, this is going to be a trench game. I think the Rams gave you a good blueprint in just some ways to kind of beat this team. The offensive line, like Washington does not have the same kind of edge rushers that the Rams do. And, Braden Fisk might have had every shot to win, by the way, Rookie of the Year. And he went out early in that game and they started to run the football. Washington's got to get themselves out of the one spot where Chris Schuler made a couple mistakes. And it was only a few, but he did make a few. Saquon one-on-one with a safety 10 yards deep is not going to cut it. So you got to make sure Frankie Louvu and Bobby Wagner are playing really well with their eyes. I don't want to say eat blocks because I think that in turn makes me feel like that's not a smart decision either, but maybe not be as overly aggressive. Like almost, it sounds stupid, Mike, and I would never say this in like any other game versus another team. Kind of make Kellen Moore run the ball 12 times in a drive and like almost get the slow death if that's what it takes, and it keeps your offense fresh and maybe your defense gets worn down by the end of the game. But like, I don't think Kellen Moore is going to stick to the run for 12 straight plays. So almost force him. Like I don't know that I'm selling out like run blitzing as much as I can against Saquon, who is very much, whether you run blitz him or not, he's -2, -4, 2, 2, 2, 98. Like that's who he's always been when he was amazing with the Giants, when he's been great with the Eagles. I'd almost like call his bluff and be like, dude, this is what happened. The Commanders did a great job of this last week against Detroit. And they were like, Ben Johnson, I'm going to ask you to not do something stupid for 60 minutes. Like, don't, like, dude, run a basic offense. I bet you can't. Because it's what makes you great, but it's also what kills you. And you want to take Saquon out, but if you make them one-dimensional in either way, you've already won. Because, and I'd much rather them be one-dimensional passing. But, yeah, that's what if I'm Dan Quinn, Joe Witt Jr., it's like, can we copy some of the Detroit tape of what we did to them? Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon Barkley, probably the two scariest guys to defend in the league. Amon-Ra and Jameson Williams are great players. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, great players. But, like, I don't know. Mike, I don't know. Do you
trust? Really, look, they traded for Marcus Lattimore and sat him for a good long time for him to get healthy. And obviously,
his legs under him a little now.
Yeah, a little bit better. And Mikey Sanders still's playing great, the rookie out of Michigan, who loved him coming out, and he's playing that way. Do they trust those guys on the outside at times? Like, we're not going to put you out there on an island by yourself all the time, but you know what? Lattimore, A.J. Brown's a bit of a hothead. You want to talk to him like you talk to Mike Evans, and maybe, whatever, you get him off his game a little bit. Obviously, we know that they've struggled to get him the damn ball. I'm really curious to see how they defend them, because I think they did just you look at it simply and you just say, look, load up on Barkley and say, Jalen Hurts, you haven't beaten anybody with your arm for pretty much 2 months. Can you do it on a bad knee, by the way? A lot of people feel like he has a sprained MCL. Again, in the walkthrough, he was a participant, but they went walkthrough for a reason on Wednesday. So I think it's going to be Philly's the better team. Philly has the best talent left of the Final Four, but I don't love the way the quarterback's playing. So they're going to have to he's either going to have to find a different level, a higher level than he's been playing at, or they're going to have to lift him up as they've been doing, whether it be through the defense and Barkley, to get it done. The next one is the rematch, and we get this pretty much every year in the playoffs now. Bills at the Chiefs for the AFC title game. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, they're 4-4 against each other in their 8 starts. The problem with that is Allen wins in the regular season, and Mahomes and the Chiefs have won in the postseason. We know the 13-second game, which stole a victory from Allen and probably stole a Super Bowl from the Bills, but the Bills going in there. This isn't the best talented. This isn't the most talented Bills team, but I feel like this is the deepest team, and a team that has a bit more of an identity, especially on offense, where it's not all about Josh. And I feel like if they can run the ball as effectively as they have for a better part of the season, and particularly in the postseason where they've had their 2 best rushing performances in terms of success rate all year, then they have the chance to finally do this and slay the dragon and stop the three-peat. But look, there's going to have to be a lot of things that go into this. And I think some ball control. I think Josh continuing to make the right decisions. And I don't know if you saw the clip from him, Will. He was asked on Wednesday, if you remember the play down by the goal line where he was sneaking it, and then like he got twisted up and he looked like he was going to pitch it and he didn't, but it was clear that it was on his mind, and he was asked about it and he's like, and he smiled. He's like, no, I wasn't thinking that. But then he was pushed and he's like, it did, it crossed my mind. He's like, but that was the old Josh, the new Josh, the one with the good angel on his shoulder versus the devil. I chose the good angel and I didn't do it. So he's had that kind of year where he has made better decisions than most. In fact, he's probably, in terms of making the best decisions from start to finish this year at the quarterback position, it's probably been him. Can he keep doing that against this Kansas City defense?
This is who doesn't beat themselves. Neither team has done it this playoffs thus far. Buffalo, obviously, twice, and Kansas City last week.
A quick nugget on that, by the way. The two quarterbacks have turned the ball over since their Week 11 matchup. There has been one turnover between the two guys, and that was Josh Allen's arm punt against the Patriots in the finale.
Not the arm punt.
Not the finale.
Yeah, look, I just think it's who doesn't beat themselves. And I said this last pod, and I'll say this again. I'm just as a disclaimer. I am praying we don't talk about the refs. Me and you don't talk about I can't do it, Mike. It's so tiring. They're right. Everyone's right. I complain about it all the time, but I just don't want to talk about it. I don't want to hear Nick Wright, defend the Chiefs. I don't want to hear Patriots fan complain about the Chiefs. I don't want to hear Jets fan. I can't do it. This should be a great game. Two great quarterbacks. I hope. Last week, it felt like with the Ravens-Chiefs game, the Ravens-Bills game, there was a few calls, but they got overshadowed, thank God, by Mark Andrews and other things. By the way, before I even was curious, I didn't prep you on this one. Curious your thoughts on donating to a guy's charity who choked the game away on the other team. A little demeaning.
It's interesting because it's sort of been
nice, but
there's been the Bills Mafia has sort of jumped in and done this a few times, and they've had people do it for them as well. Look, Mark Andrews did not want to be in that position. No. I guess it's cool that people are whether you want to call it demeaning or not, the fact that people are willing to put money into his charity, he's going through it. He just posted, I don't know if you saw it, he posted on Instagram sort of because he didn't speak after the game. He didn't speak on the breakup day on Monday, which is kind of frowned upon. That's not supposed to be the case.
Cam Newton had a mental breakdown today about it.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. He said it's just like Fox News and how no one holds anyone accountable these days. Oh, I wonder where that's coming from, Cam. Did you maybe not speak after a Super Bowl in which you had one of the softest plays we've ever seen? That's so weird. Why would you ever be upset about that?
Can I? He doesn't belong on television. He's just not very good. But anyway, Mark was very look, I feel like I let everybody down. And
it's in a dark place. I don't want to talk to anybody.
Yeah, which you understand. There was a lot riding on that, and I think Baltimore felt like they were the best team in the National Football League.
Yep.
And so don't even get a chance to play in overtime there and get the game on. When we look at this game, and we talked about this quite a bit going into the last one, Joe Thuney playing left tackle, and Joe Thuney had his struggles at left tackle against Houston, Will Anderson. It appears that Joe Thuney is going to play left tackle again. And we kind of talked about it a little bit, but he's so good at left guard and Creed Humphrey at center and Smith at right guard that have they taken what was a strength and made it into a weakness to cover up another weakness, or have they downgraded a strength to cover up a weakness? And is that making them maybe not as good as they should be? Maybe you're better off just saying, hey, we're going to stick whoever it is. DJ Humphrey's out there at left tackle, and we're going to chip, and we're going to double, but we're going to have the three guys that we have in the middle that we were able to run the ball behind effectively quite a bit, and they haven't been able to run the ball effectively for quite a bit now. Is that the right move?
Yeah, trying to think how I could. Kansas City is going to be really interesting in this game, in my opinion, Mike, because it's like you mentioned the devil on Josh Allen's shoulder at times versus the angel and stuff like that. It's the devil versus the angel of the Chiefs are better when they run the football a ton and they punch you in the mouth, and then Mahomes on third down just is amazing.
Yep.
Very Patriots-esque, especially at the end where it was kind of dink and dunk, and get yourself in 3rd and 4, and everyone in defense is like, oh, 3rd and 4, that's awesome. And then it's Brady's like, cool, I'll take 6 yards every time.
Right.
Mahomes is like, oh, it's 3rd and 12, dude. I'm going to run around. I'm going to flop. but I'm going to somehow hit some guy that nobody can see on the television screen for a 40-yard gain. And I'm not sure why no one's covering Travis Kelce. The Bills defended the run much better on Sunday night. But they still got gashed on a couple of drives. And the Chiefs need like one of those. They need one of those drives. They had them last year in Baltimore. They had one drive where it was like, punch you in the mouth, Kelce, punch you in the mouth, Kelce, punch. Like, that's what they did, right? Went down the field. Kelce turned back the clock. They put himself, the Gronk, take him out of the garage for 3 to 4 weeks.
Yep.
That wins in this football game. Do not turn the football over. Eliminate the bad holding penalty that's going to happen from Jawan Taylor or Joe Thuney. Like, we're going to get one. So, or they go off sides and everyone gets mad. And if you're Buffalo, I don't know. I kind of almost very similar to almost the opposite of Philly. Like, I'm almost like make the devil and them run the football too. Like, I don't know. Buffalo is decent enough right now against the run that I take my chances challenging Patrick Mahomes to just turn back and hand it off. I don't know if that means sitting in zone. I don't know if that means some overload blitzes, specifically off of those tackles, like some, and try to keep your rush lanes. And can Von Miller does he have one or two plays in his bag? Can he get something out of Ed Oliver inside, and can he beat somebody once or twice and just keep you honest, keep Mahomes honest? Got to hit him early, Mike. We saw in that Super Bowl. We've seen when they've lost very few times. Very similar to Brady, any good quarterback, you got to hit these guys early. For Buffalo, on offense, I don't think it matters quite as much. Josh is like a battering ram. I actually think he weirdly likes getting hit. I almost think Josh is the opposite. It's almost like let him get a little really confident early, and maybe he makes a mistake getting a little too ballsy, very Brett Favre-ish, where it's like, please, just give us one. And Josh hasn't done it, to his credit. So The one thing I'm curious, Mike, is kicking, as always, in these games with the Bills especially. And McDermott is a good coach. He's a damn good coach. We talked about Todd Bowles. I know probably not quite as successful as McDermott, but very similar, very good regular season, get you to the playoffs, great defensive mind. All that said, does he curl up a little bit? Got really tight last week in the second half.
Yep.
The Bills are up, I don't know, let's play the scenario. They're up 17-10 halfway through the third. They score a big touchdown to go up 17-10. Does he put it in second gear instead of fourth and say, ooh, we're going to try to drain this game out? I hope he doesn't, but that's my one worry, I guess, if I'm Buffalo. That and Bass kicking, it's really a crapshoot with him in the playoffs. And Bucker, I know he's got the knee, but you trust him at home. So those are two things we just don't talk about that I think are crucial here. Yeah.
I would hope McDermott, after seeing Patrick Mahomes up close and personal for 8 different matchups, would realize that if you're up 17-10, you can't take the air out of the ball. You still got to let your quarterback go make plays. He's what's helped get you here, or really been the driving force behind what's gotten you there. And I wouldn't want to take the ball out of his hands. Certainly looking forward to that one. We got to do PrizePicks, and I lined them up. I went deep. I got 5 of them for you. And of course, one is the Jaden Daniels more than a half yard passing. So you can combine these any way you want. You can do the 5 and aim high, or you can, piecemeal them together. I've got Saquon Barkley more than a half a touchdown, and that can be, they have the PrizePicks has it with both rushing and receiving. So you get the benefit there. I've got James Cook more than 57.5 rushing yards. I think they're going to lean on him a little bit in this game. And obviously try to keep the ball out of Patrick's hands. I've got Josh Allen with more than a half rushing touchdown. I think they get down inside the 2 or 3 yard line, and he's just going to bulldoze. And then I have Jaden Daniels. He's been awesome. This number seems low to me. 223.5 yards passing. I'm going to take more on 223.5 because if they're going to win, he's going to have a big day, both with the arm and the legs.
So I'm going to go Jaden Daniels. Obviously, we talked about the passing yards, one for him. I'm going to go Jalen Hurts on lower. I apologize, on his passing yards. I've talked about it. Weirdly, for whatever reason with him, the yards kind of have never been he never is a massive yards guy, but in the playoffs for them to win, he just simply does not throw for more than 130 yards. Yep. He's at 179. they've never won up. He's averaging one. He needs 179 to get to like 300 for the playoffs. It's like, so that I'm going to go, less than for Jalen Hurts. I just think they win this game. It's because of Saquon and those guys, and they have another advance. Travis Kelce more receiving yards, 70.5. Do I think Travis Kelce is like a tenth of the player he was even like 24 months ago? No, but these games he just like pops up, and it's like, how are you still doing this? Why are you so open? You look like you're in cement, but he still figures it out. So those two. I'm going to give you a third one here, Mike, that's a bit of a weird one. Not weird. Amari Cooper more than 16.5 receiving yards. There's no way. I said this when they traded for him, by the way, that he was not going to work because for whatever reason the games get tight and he gets a little tight for him. You're telling me he can't catch 2 passes for 20 yards? Come on.
He showed up in their first meeting. Like
he did. That's what I'm saying. I don't. 19.5 is. It's a dummy line. I know it's going to end up being less, but I just feel like I have to go with it.
That's not unfair. Yeah, Shakir was the only receiver who went nuts in their first meeting, but Cooper had a couple big catches in that game. All right, that's going to wrap it up. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the football. Next time we come at you, we're going to be coming from the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama, baby. Might be an actual in-person pod, or he might be in his hotel room and I might be in mine. You never know how that's going to work, but we're looking forward to that. Enjoy the games. Remember to like, listen, subscribe, rate, review, do all those wonderful things here for the All 32 pod. We'll see you again next week.